Today, my name is Dailin Jenica, a Bachelor of Elementary Education student, and I am here to report on Chapter 16 where it tackles Rizal in Belgian, Brussels. It is January 28, 1890, when Rizal left Paris for Brussels, wherein Brussels is the capital of Belgium. And there are two reasons why Rizal left Paris. So the first one is the cost of living in Paris are very high because of the Universal Exposition. Life in Paris is demanding or expensive. While the second reason is the gay social life of the city hampered his literary works, especially the writing of his second novel, El Filibusterismo. Because the expenses or the quality in Paris are high, Rizal was struggling to publish his second novel, which is the El Filibusterismo. His friends Marcelo H. del Pilar and Valentin Ventura were believed that he left because he was running away from a girl just as he left London. And when his friend knows the reason why Rizal left in Paris, Valentin Ventura offered a place to stay without paying any rent. But Rizal did not accept Ventura's offer, and when Rizal finally moved in, his uncle Jose Albert accompanied him to Brussels. He stayed in a boarding house at the address 38 Rue Philippe Champagne, and Rizal lived in this house when he wrote his novel El Filibusterismo from year 1890 to 1891. The boarding house was run by two Jacobi sisters named Suzanne and Marie, and when his uncle Jose Albert died, Jose Alejandro, an engineering student, replaced him. In Brussels, Rizal was busy writing his second novel, which is the continuation of the Noli. Aside from writing its chapters, he also wrote articles for La Solidaridad and letters to his family. Being a physician, he spent part of his time in the medical clinic. And for his recreation, he had gymnastics at the gymnasium and target practice and fencing in the armory. Speaking of Rizal's frugality, his roommate Jose Alejandro wrote that on one occasion, Rizal suggested that they eat pancit. They eat it on lunch and supper for 2 days. Despite of his European education and his knowledge of foreign languages, Rizal loved his own native language. He was the first one to advocate to the Philippinization of our letters C and O and use instead K and W. Rizal criticizes Madrid Filipinos for gambling. In Brussels, Rizal received a letter from Juan Luna and Valentin Ventura that the Filipinos in Spain are destroying the good name of their nation by gambling too much. These two compatriots urged him to do something about it. Accordingly, Rizal wrote to Marcelo H. del Pilar on May 28, 1890 to remind Filipinos in Madrid that they did not come to Europe to gamble, but to work for their fatherland's freedom. Rizal received bad news from home as follows. Pasiano and his brother-in-law were deported to Mindoro. Hidalgo were vanished for the second time to Bohol. In his moment of despair, Rizal had bad dreams. And although he was not superstitious, he feared that he would not live long. But Rizal wanted to finish his second novel, El Filibusterismo, before he went to his grave. In his letter to Marcelo H. del Pilar, he said, "In my childhood, I had a strange belief that I would not reach 30 years of age in the face of sufferings." Rizal planned to go home. All his friends objected to his plan and warned him of the danger that awaited him at home. Something happened that changed his decision, and he informed Marcelo H. del Pilar that he was going to Madrid to supervise the handling of the case of his family in Calamba. While in Brussels, he wrote a poem entitled Me to My Muse, a pathetic poem, lack of executeness. While he was preparing for his trip to Madrid, two things brought some measures of cheers. The summertime festival of Belgium, which was celebrated in carnival style with colorful costumes, fantastic floats, and so on. Now, his romance with Petite Jokowi, the pretty niece of his landladies, Rizal was so charming that time and dignified gentleman that Suzanne was attracted to him. He was lonely in a strange country, and Leonor Rivera was so far away. He found certain bliss in the company of the pretty girl Belgian, or a pretty Belgian girl, like all.
I am Ayla Marigala, and I'm the one to continue the report of Chapter 16. So these are the articles published in La Solidaridad. So Rizal wrote articles for La Solidaridad during his journey in Brazil, in defense of his oppressed people and to point out the evils of Spanish rule in the Philippines. So the first article that he wrote, titled A la Defensa or Tuvla Defensa. This was in response of the anti-Filipino writing by Patricio de la Escosora, published by the La Defensa on March 30, 1889 issue. Written on April 30, 1889, Rizal's article refuted the views of Escosora, calling the reader's attention to the insidious influences of the friars of the community. So the second article that he wrote, titled La Verdad para Todos, or The Truth for All. So Rizal's defense against the Spanish charges that the native local officials were ignorant and depraved. This was Rizal's encounter with the Spanish charges that the native were ignorant on May 31, 1889. It was published in the La Solidaridad. So the third article that he wrote, titled Vicente Barantas, or the Teatro Tagalog. The first installment of Rizal's Vicente Barantas was published in La Solidaridad on June 15, 1889. In this article, Rizal exposed Barantas' lack of knowledge on the Tagalog theatrical art. So the fourth article is the Una Profanacion, or a Profanacion, published on July 31, 1889. These articles mockingly attack the friars for refusing to give Christians burial to Mariano Herbosa, Rizal's brother-in-law, who died on cholera in May 23, 1889, being the husbands of Lucia Rizal, or the possessed sister. Herbosa was denied of burial in the Catholic cemetery by the priest. So the fifth article that he wrote titled Verdades Nuevas, or the New Truths. In this article, dated last July 31, 1889, Rizal's reply to the letter of Vicente Belloc Sanchez, which was published on July 4, 1889, in La Patria, a newspaper in Madrid. Rizal's addressed Sanchez allegation that provisions of reforms of the Philippines would devastate the diplomatic rule of the Catholic friars, which he asserted that granting reforms in the Philippines would ruin the peaceful and maternal life of the friars. So the sixth article that he wrote is Crueldad, or the Cruelty, dated last August 15, 1889. This was Rizal's witty defense of Blumentritt from the libellous attacks of his enemies. So the next article that he wrote is Diferencias, or the Differences, published on September 15, 1889. This article countered the biases article entitled Old Fruits, which was presented in La Patria on August 14, 1889. Old Truths ridiculed those Filipino who asked for reforms. So the sixth article that he wrote is Inconsciences or the Inconsciences. The Spanish Pablo Mir Diaz attacked Antonio Luna in the Barcelona newspaper entitled El Pueblo Soberano. As Rizal's defense of Luna, he wrote this article and then published on November 30, 1889. The next article that he wrote is Llanto y Rosas or the Tears and Laughter, dated last November 30, 1889. This article was condemnation of the racial prejudice of the Spanish against the brown race. Rizal remembered that he earned first prize in literary contest in 1880. He narrated nonetheless how the Spaniard and mestizos spectators stopped their applause upon noticing that the winner had a brown skin complexion. And the last article that he wrote in La Solidaridad is the Ingratitude or the Ingratitude, dated on January 15, 1890. This article was the hero's reply to the Governor General Wehrli, who told the people in Calamba that they should not allow themselves to be deceived by the vain promises of their ungrateful sons. This statement was made as a reaction to the Rizal's project of relocating the oppressed and landless Calamba tenants to the North Borneo. So these 10 articles that Rizal or the Dr. Jose Rizal wrote in La Solidaridad during his mourn in Brazil.